What if the Wi-Fi password protecting your office took less than 5 minutes to crack? What if the corporate network at your university was one rogue access point away from being compromised? These aren't hypotheticals, these are real attacks, and in this course, you're going to learn all of them. Welcome to the full OSWP certification prep course. I'm taking you from zero to cracking WEP, WPA2, and full enterprise networks on Kali Linux in your own lab with live demos. No theory lectures, no fluff. Every attack from scratch. Let's go. OSWP, Offensive Security Wireless Professional, is made by OffSec, the same people who built Kali Linux and the OSCP. The exam is 3 hours 45 minutes, live, proctored, fully practical. 3 real wireless networks to hack, and once you earn it, the credential never expires. Here's what makes this course different from every other Wi-Fi hacking tutorial out there. The official OffSec Pen 210 curriculum contains no labs, just reading material and videos. You're expected to figure out the practical side yourself. This course fills that gap. We provide a custom Kali VM, pre-configured with virtual wireless interfaces and live networks already set up inside it. Download it, import it, and you're attacking networks in minutes. Zero hardware required, zero setup headaches. And it's not just convenient, it mirrors the exact environment you'll face in the OSWP exam. So every lab you complete in this course is direct exam practice. Every single concept has a live demo in the terminal. No theory-only lectures. And the attacks are the real ones. WEP Cracking, WPA2 Handshake Capture, PMKID, and WPA Enterprise using a rogue access point. These are the exact techniques professional penetration testers use on real engagements. That's what the official course doesn't give you, and that's exactly what this does. Whether you're breaking into pen testing, defending networks as an engineer, working through your OffSec certs, or just obsessed with how wireless security works under the hood, this course is built for you. In this course, we focus on the 3 attacks that matter most for the OSWP exam. WEP was broken by design, and we can crack it in minutes. It still runs on more networks than you'd think. WPA and WPA2 is what most of the world uses right now. We capture the handshake and crack it offline with Hashcat or John. WPA Enterprise is the advanced one being used in corporate offices and universities. We spin up a rogue access point, intercept the authentication, and crack the hash offline. By the end of this course, you'll have done all 3, live in your own lab from scratch. The lab we're using comes preloaded with 6 virtual wireless interfaces and multiple networks ready to attack. No hardware, no setup, just download and go. Every exercise runs inside this environment. So from day 1, you're practicing on a real setup that mirrors the OSWP exam. Here's exactly what happens on the day. You connect to OffSec's VPN. You get a control panel with 3 wireless network scenarios. 3 hours, 45 minutes to hack all 3. For each one, the objective is simple. Capture the wireless key, connect to the access point, read the proof file. After the exam ends, you have 24 hours to write and submit your report. PDF, zipped, uploaded. The labs you will do in this course will ensure that there are no surprises on the exam day. Everything you see on screen comes pre-installed on Kali, and we use every single one of these tools live in the terminal throughout this course. Quick legal note before we dive in. Only use these techniques on networks you own or have explicit permission to test. Unauthorized wireless attacks are illegal, and the consequences are very real. Everything in this course is for education and OSWP exam preparation only. What you do with this knowledge is your responsibility. Next up, lab setup, the Wi-Fi hacking toolset, and then straight into WEP, WPA2, and WPA Enterprise. Every video is a live demo, step by step. Let's get into it. Alright everyone, welcome. Before we get into the actual Wi-Fi pen testing content, we need to make sure every single one of you has a working lab environment. By the end of this lecture, you will have a fully configured Kali Linux virtual machine, running on your laptop with every tool we need already installed. Here's the big picture. 3 steps, and we're done. Step 1. You'll download an OVA file from a Google Drive link I'm about to give you. An OVA is basically a pre-packaged virtual machine in a single file. Step 2. You open VMware, import that file, and VMware builds the virtual machine for you automatically. Step 3. You power it on and log in. The desktop loads, everything is pre-installed, and you're ready to follow along with every practical exercise in this course. Let me quickly explain what an OVA file actually is, because some of you may not have used one before. OVA stands for Open Virtual Appliance. Think of it as a shipping container for a virtual machine. Everything the VM needs, the operating system, the disk image, the hardware configuration, is bundled into that one file. The OVA I've prepared for you has Kali Linux already installed. The entire Air Cracking suite is preloaded, all the drivers are configured, and it already has simulated networks and virtual wireless adapters. You are not building this from scratch. You're just unpacking a box that's already been packed for you. Remember, this VM is based on Wi-Fi Challenge Labs and is just migrated to Kali Linux with a few necessary optimizations. Phase 1. Downloading the OVA. I'm going to put the Google Drive link on the screen right now. Open your browser, paste the link, and start the download. You can also download the zip format that I provided, which you can directly extract and use. Phase 2 is importing the OVA into VMware. Here's exactly what you're going to do in VMware. Step 1. Open VMware Workstation or VMware Player on your computer. Step 2. In the menu at the top, click File, then Open. Step 3. A file browser will open. Navigate to wherever you saved the OVA file, and select it. Step 4. Click Import. VMware will now extract and set up the virtual machine for you. You'll see a progress bar, just let it run. Step 5. Wait for it to finish. It usually takes 1 to 3 minutes. Once it's done, the new VM will appear in your VMware library on the left. Once the import finishes, before you power on the VM, let's quickly check the hardware settings. For RAM, if your laptop has 8 GB or more, I'd recommend bumping it to 4. It makes Kali noticeably more responsive. For network, ensure it is NAT mode. Phase 3. The last step. Select the Kali VM in your VMware library and click Power on this virtual machine. The VM will boot up, you'll see the Kali Linux boot screen, and after about 30 to 60 seconds you'll arrive at a login screen. The credentials are shown on the screen. Type those in and press Enter. The Kali desktop will load, and that's it. Your lab is ready. Now let's do a quick sanity check to confirm everything is installed correctly. On your Kali desktop, right-click and open a terminal, or you can click the terminal icon in the taskbar at the top. Type exactly this command, aircrack-ng. Hit enter. You should see the aircrack version number and a list of available options. If you see that, you're good. Your lab environment is fully set up. And that's it. You now have a fully configured Wi-Fi hacking lab running on your machine. In our next session, we'll jump straight into the practical content. No setup delays, no I can't get it working. We'll just dive in. See you in the next session. All right, everyone, welcome. Today we're diving into Wi-Fi hacking, and we're going to go from zero to actually running Reconnaissance on a wireless network. By the end of this lecture, you'll understand how wireless adapters work at a low level. You'll have monitor mode running, and you'll be scanning networks like a professional pen tester. Everything I show you today is for educational purposes and authorized testing only. Never run these tools against the network you don't own or have explicit written permission to test. Great. Whether you're brand new or have dabbled before, we'll make sure everyone is on the same page. Let's get into it. Here's today's roadmap. First, the theory, how and why Wi-Fi hacking works. Next, a proper environment setup to avoid future headaches. Then, we enable monitor mode to capture hidden packets, followed by tweaking advanced interface settings. Finally, the main event, Reconnaissance, where we scan and map networks using airodump-ng. So let's start with the basics. You cannot reliably hack what you don't understand. Before we run a single command, we need to know what we're working with, what hardware we have, whether it supports the modes we need, and how to get our system ready. The very first thing we do before touching any wireless tool is kill interfering processes. On a normal Linux system, services like Network Manager are constantly talking to your wireless card in the background. If we don't stop them, they'll interfere with our tools and cause all sorts of weird behavior, like adapters not responding, captures dropping packets, monitor mode getting reset. I will switch over to my Kali terminal now and watch this. I'll run both of these commands. First, make directory command creates our working directory. This is good practice. Keep all your capture files organized in one place. Use the command airmon-ng check kill. Watch what it reports. It will list every process it kills. You'll typically see WPA supplicant and Network Manager in there. Next is iwconfig command. This lists down all wireless interfaces. In this lab, you can see we have a number of virtual wireless interfaces which we can use. Good. Now let's verify our wireless hardware. The iwlist command gives us a full capability dump of every wireless card in the system. The thing I want you to focus on is the Supported Interface Modes section. Scroll through with me and look for Monitor in that list. If Monitor is in there, this card can do what we need. If it's not there, you'd need a different adapter. Now we get to the most important concept in Wi-Fi hacking, monitor mode. Let me explain what's actually happening here, because this is the foundation everything else is built on. Your wireless card normally works in what's called managed mode. In managed mode, your card ignores every packet that isn't addressed to it. That's actually how all networking normally works. Your card just filters out traffic meant for other devices. Monitor mode changes this completely. In monitor mode, your card captures every single wireless frame it can detect, whether it's addressed to you or not. You can see beacons from nearby routers, handshakes between other devices, probe requests from phones looking for networks, all of it. Let's enable it. The easiest way is using airmon-ng. Notice what happened. The interface got renamed. It was WLAN0, now it's WLAN0 mon. That mon suffix tells you it's in monitor mode. Airmon-ng does this automatically. It also handles any remaining interfering processes. Alright, now let me walk you through the manual method. You'll want to have this in your toolkit for those times when airmon-ng isn't playing nice, or you're in an environment where you just need absolute control. It's a straightforward 3-step process. First, we need to take the interface offline. I'll use the ifconfig command to bring it down. Next, we manually force the switch by setting the mode to monitor using iwconfig. And finally, we bring the interface back online with ifconfig up. Now, let's verify that it actually worked. If we check our interfaces again with iwconfig, you can see right here that our target interface is officially in monitor mode. As a quick pro tip, to cut through the noise, you can run iwconfig piped into grep to filter straight to your WLAN interface. The golden ticket here is seeing mode monitor in your output. If you look and it still says mode managed, something tripped up. And you'll need to run through those 3 steps one more time. So, we have 3 tools you'll use constantly for inspecting your wireless setup. Airmon-ng lists the interface, driver, and chipset for all wireless cards. iwconfig is your basic wireless status tool. It shows you the current mode, transmit power, and whether the interface is associated with an access point. iwdev is the more modern and detailed tool. It gives you the physical interface number and MAC address for each interface. Now let's talk about something that trips people up all the time: regulatory domains. Different countries allow wireless devices to use different frequency ranges and power levels. By default, Linux sets the domain to country to 00, and it applies the most restrictive global settings. This often means you get passive scan flags on certain frequencies, which means you can't actively probe for networks on those channels. This is a huge problem when you're trying to scan 5 GHz networks. Run iwregget command, and you'll see the current domain and country. Setting it to US changes the domain to DFS-FCC and immediately increases the allowed transmit power. You'll see bands like 2.4 GHz jump up to 30 dBm. More importantly, it removes those passive scan restrictions on 5 GHz channels, so airodump-ng can actively probe and discover 5 GHz networks. We're now into Reconnaissance, and this is where it gets really exciting. Reconnaissance in the context of Wi-Fi hacking means finding your target. You need 3 pieces of information before you can do anything else: the BSS ID, that's the MAC address of the access point, the channel it's operating on, and the ESS ID, which is the network name. Airodump-ng is the tool that gives us all of this. Before we run the command, understand the band flags. The A flag scans 5 GHz, which is 802.11a. The B and G flags cover 2.4 GHz. By using all 3 together, we cast the widest possible net and discover everything in range regardless of which frequency it's on. Let us run this command now. Watch the output. The top section shows access points. Each row is a different network. The bottom section shows stations. devices that are connected to or probing for those networks. I want you to notice a few columns specifically. BSSID is the router's MAC address. CH is the channel. ENC is the encryption type. You'll see WPA2, WPA3, and maybe some old WEP. And PWR is signal strength. The closer to 0, the stronger the signal. Once we've identified our target network, we don't need to keep scanning everything. We can lock in on that specific channel to reduce noise and capture data more efficiently. See how the output is now focused, only showing networks on channel 6. The data count is climbing as we capture packets. This focused capture is what we'll use in later sections when we're actually going after a specific network. Now let me show you the full professional reconnaissance command. This is what you'd actually use in a real engagement. It saves captures, records manufacturer information, detects WPS, and scans all bands simultaneously. Sudo gives us the root privileges needed to interact with the network hardware. WLAN 0mon specifies our interface. If it isn't in monitor mode, this whole command fails. The -W flag tells it to save our capture files, which are essential for password cracking later on. Manufacturer is great for profiling. It translates MAC addresses into hardware makers so you know exactly what kinds of devices are connected. The --WPS flag is a vulnerability goldmine. It shows if WPS is enabled, which instantly opens the door to attacks like pixie dust. And finally, --band ABG ensures we are scanning both 2.4 and 5 GHz frequencies simultaneously, so we don't miss half the targets out there. Let's run the full command. Now you can see manufacturer information appearing next to each AP, that manufacturer column. And if anything has WPS enabled, you'll see it flagged. Let this run for about 30 seconds to build up a good capture file. Let's consolidate everything into a 4-step workflow. This is the sequence you follow every single time you start a wireless assessment. Step 1. Create a dedicated folder for this job. Keep your captures organized, or you'll end up with dozens of scan files and no idea which one belongs to which target. Step 2. Put your card into monitor mode. We've done this already, but in a real engagement, this is where you start every session. Step 3. Broad scan with all bands and flags to discover everything in the environment. Step 4. Once you've identified your target, lock to its channel for a focused capture. That's it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we're going to move from passive reconnaissance into active attacks. Everything from today is the foundation for all of that. The resource for this course is at wifi-hacking.cavementech.com. All the commands and explanations are there. Thanks everyone. Good work today. See you next session. Welcome everyone. Today we are going to dive into the practical side of Wi-Fi security by learning how to hack WPA and WPA2 networks using the AirCrack suite. Before we start hacking, let's understand our toolset. AircrackNG isn't just one tool. It is a complete suite of utilities designed to assess Wi-Fi network security. We'll be using it for 4 main tasks: monitoring the airwaves to capture packets, attacking networks via packet injection like deauthentication, testing our Wi-Fi cards, and finally, cracking the captured WPA pre-shared keys. The entire attack methodology can be broken down into 2 simple steps. Step 1 is capturing the 4-way handshake using a tool called airmon-ng and airodump-ng. Step 2 is cracking that captured handshake offline using aircrack-ng through a dictionary or brute force attack. So, what is this handshake we need to capture? When your laptop or phone connects to a Wi-Fi access point, it uses a pre-shared key, the Wi-Fi password, to authenticate. During this connection process, the device and the router perform a four-way handshake to generate a unique, encrypted session key. The beauty of this attack is that if we can intercept this handshake over the air, we can take it offline and attempt to break it to reveal the original password. Let's move into Phase 1, capturing the handshake. Step 1 is preparing our network card. By default, your Wi-Fi card only captures traffic meant specifically for your device. To see the handshake of other devices, we must put our card into monitor mode, which tells it to capture all wireless traffic in the air. You can check the wireless interfaces present in Kali Linux with the command iwconfig. Here, we can see that we have a number of wireless interfaces. Let's put the interface WLAN 0 into monitor mode. We can do that with the command sudo airmon-ng start WLAN 0. This will create a new interface with the name WLAN 0 mon. Once we have our interface in monitor mode, we can now use airodump-ng to monitor the wireless media. Type the command sudo airodump-ng WLAN 0 mon. Here we can see a number of networks. In the upper half of the terminal, all available networks are being shown, and in the lower half, the clients connected to these networks are displayed. We can spot our target network called Wi-Fi Mobile. If we look at the bottom half, we can also see a client connected to it. This is crucial because we need an active client connection to capture the handshake. Now we start capturing traffic specifically for our target access point. We lock onto the target's BSS ID and specify the channel. Use airodump command as shown on the screen. -C specifies the channel and --B SSID indicates the target MAC address. The -W flag tells the tool to write all the captured packets into a file so we can analyze it later. We don't want to wait around all day for a user to naturally connect to the network. Instead, we force it. In a second terminal tab, we run a deauthentication attack using airreplay-ng. Type sudo airreplay-ng-010-A, the target MAC address, and the interface name. Here, -0 specifies the deauth attack. 10 is the number of packets we send to kick the user off, and -A points to the router's MAC address. When the disconnected client automatically reconnects, we will catch their handshake. Keep an eye on the top right corner of your airodump-ng window. Once you see the text WPA handshake appear alongside the BSS ID, you've got it. You can safely press Ctrl+C to stop the capture. You can do ls and see that we have our captured file available in the current directory. We now enter Phase 2, cracking. We have our captured.cap file, and now we will run it through aircrack-ng against a word list. First, let's try using the default John the Ripper word list, which contains a collection of the most commonly used passwords. We pass the capture file and use the -W flag to specify our dictionary file. The tool rapidly tests every word in that list against the handshake's mathematical signature to find a match. But, as we can see, it failed. The password is not in this basic list. Now, let's bring out the hacker's favorite, rocku.txt. change the dictionary to rocku.txt. Hit Enter. The tool gets to work against this massive dictionary, and look at the terminal. Key found! Our password, Star Wars 1, is successfully revealed. Finally, we move to Phase 3, verifying our hard work. Once the password is cracked, we need to prove that we can successfully connect to the network. We start by creating a configuration file for WPA supplicant. As you can see, we input the target's SSID, the BSS ID to lock onto the correct hardware, and our newly cracked pre-shared key into this configuration file. To make the connection, we run sudo WPA supplicant, the interface name, and the configuration file. Once the connection is initialized successfully, we move to the final step. But we still need an IP address. Open one final terminal and run sudo dhclient and the interface name. This requests an IP address from the target router, officially placing us on the network. If you look closely at the terminal output, you can see the gateway IP address assigned to us as well. To prove we have full internal access, we can just open that gateway IP address in our web browser. And right here, you can see that we can successfully access the router's login page. Additionally, if you are in a CTF environment or taking a practical exam like the OSWP, we can simply run curl to grab the flag and prove our access. And that concludes the WPA2 cracking process. Remember, the success of this attack depends entirely on the dictionary used. As you can see, there are a number of massive online dictionaries available that contain millions of well-known and compromised passwords. So the primary defense is simple. If you configure a strong, complex password that is not in these dictionaries, your network is safe from this specific attack. Thank you for watching. Remember to always keep your testing ethical and strictly on authorized networks. And I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome everyone to today's deep dive into Wi-Fi hacking. Today, we are stepping into a time machine to explore legacy vulnerabilities, specifically the exploitation of WEP networks. This is a complete technical walkthrough of wired equivalent privacy exploitation and the mathematical key recovery that breaks it wide open. Before we launch our attacks, we have to understand our target's weakness. Why exactly does a protocol from the 1990s fail so spectacularly today? The vulnerability core comes down to 3 fatal flaws. First, short IVs. WEP relies on a 24-bit initialization vector. In any busy network, those IVs are going to repeat rapidly, which leads directly to keystream reuse. Second, statistical flaws. Once those IVs start repeating, attackers can use the FMS and PTW attacks to mathematically derive the secret key. Finally, active replay. We don't just have to sit and wait for IVs to repeat. We can force the issue by injecting ARP requests, forcing the access point to spit out thousands of new IVs per second. To exploit these flaws, we follow a strict 5-step kill chain. 1. Reconnaissance. We put our wireless card into monitor mode to sniff out WEP-enabled targets. 2. Targeted capture. We lock onto our target's specific channel and MAC address. 3. Fake authentication. We trick the router into talking to us. 4. ARP request replay. We stimulate massive amounts of traffic to harvest IVs. 5. Key cracking. We take that harvested data offline and crack the hexadecimal key. Let's get to work. Phase 1 is all about capturing the target's traffic. But a standard Wi-Fi card only listens to traffic meant for it. We need to change that. First, we run iwconfig to check for our existing Wi-Fi adapter. We can see that we have multiple wireless interfaces available. Next, we activate monitor mode by running airmon-ng start and the interface name. This turns our card into a digital vacuum, sucking up every radio wave around us. Running iwconfig one more time confirms our interface has changed its name and mon is added to the wireless interface name. Now we have a wireless interface that can listen to all traffic. Next, we use a tool called airodump-ng. This tool captures and displays all the traffic our adapter can see. We're looking for critical intel, the BSSID, the operating channel, and the encryption type. Specifically, we are looking for encryption column for WEP and note our target network, Wi-Fi-old. We can also see that a client is also connected to our target network. We can't listen to everything at once. We need laser focus. We lock onto our target using airodump-ng-c3-BSSID, followed by the target's MAC address, and write the output to a file named Wi-Fi-old. The -C3 locks our radio to channel 3. The --BSSID flag acts as a filter, eliminating all extraneous neighborhood traffic, so we only record our target. While this runs, keep your eyes on the data column. That represents the IVs we are collecting. For a successful mathematical crack, we need between 20,000 and 50,000 IVs. But here is the catch. On an idle network, waiting naturally for 50,000 data packets could literally take days. Nobody has time for that. To speed this up, we use active packet injection. By actively throwing traffic at the access point, we force it to respond immediately. Every single response contains a fresh IV. This aggressive technique transforms a boring 24-hour wait into an explosive 5-minute crack. Phase 2 is association. The target router won't just accept injected packets from a random, unassociated stranger. We have to perform a fake authentication to introduce ourselves. We use sudo airreplay-ng and associate our device with the target device. The -1 tells the tool to run a fake auth. We set a massive timeout of 3,600 seconds and use -Q10 to send keep alive requests every 10 seconds. Now, the router thinks we belong there. Now for Phase 3, the ARP replay attack. This is where the magic happens. We run airreplay-ng-ARP replay. Using -B for the AP MAC address and -H for our own associated MAC address, we tell our card to listen for a specific packet type, an ARP request. The moment it hears one, it captures it and blasts it back at the router over and over again, generating massive amounts of traffic and giving us the IVs we desperately need. We can see the number of data packets increasing at a faster pace now. Phase 4 brings it all together. Our capture file is now bloated with tens of thousands of data packets. We run sudo aircrack-ng with our captured file. Remember that we can run the attack while the capture is still going on. We let the algorithm perform statistical analysis on all those overlapping IVs. Watch the screen, and boom! Key found. We have successfully found the hexadecimal key. Now, doing this manually is crucial for understanding the mechanics. But in the real world, efficiency is king. We can automate this entire multi-step kill chain with a single tool. Running sudo bestside-ng-c3 against our target MAC address automates the capture, the injection, and the cracking in one completely hands-off command. But remember, this tool is not allowed to be used in a certification exam like OSWP. We have the key, but a key is useless if you don't turn the lock. Let's connect. We use a text editor like Nano to create a simple configuration file called WEP.conf. Inside, we define the network SSID, set key management to none, and paste our cracked hex key. Now, to make the connection, we run sudo WPA supplicant, pointing it to our wireless interface and our new configuration file. We are associated, but we need an IP address to speak on the network. In a new terminal, we run dhclient to pull a dynamic IP from the router. Once the IP is bound, the network is ours. To prove our access, we can open a web browser and navigate to the router's gateway IP address. And here we can see that we can access the page as well as the flag. Additionally, if you are in a CTF environment or taking a practical exam like the OSWP, we can simply run curl to grab the flag and prove our access. And just like that, a secure network is completely compromised. Thank you for joining this session. Stay curious and stay secure. Welcome to this lecture on WPA Enterprise Penetration Testing, where we will be specifically attacking the Radius and EAP protocols. Unlike standard home Wi-Fi hacking, enterprise networks require a more sophisticated approach. Before we jump into the terminal, let's look at the architecture. In a WPA enterprise setup, the access point isn't storing the password. Instead, it acts as an authenticator, a gatekeeper. When a client or supplicant tries to connect, the AP forwards the request to an authentication server, typically a Radius server, which holds the database of valid credentials. If you want to hack WPA Enterprise, you can't just capture a handshake and run aircrack-ng like you do at home. Unlike your home network, where the router does everything, enterprise networks split the job into 3 specific roles. Let's break down exactly how this data travels, and, more importantly, where we can intercept it. It starts here, at the access point, or the authenticator. When a client device tries to associate, the AP stops all traffic at the door. It sends an EAP request to the client, basically asking, "Who are you?" The client, or supplicant, responds with its identity. In many configurations, this identity, the username, is sent in clear text. Even if you can't crack the password later, simply sniffing this packet gives you a valid username to use in password spraying attacks or Active Directory targeting later. Now, the Radius server steps in. Before it accepts a password, it needs to prove it is the legitimate server. It sends its digital certificate to the client to build an encrypted tunnel. This is the most vulnerable moment in the entire chain. If we are mimicking the server with a tool like HostAPD or EAP Hammer, we send a fake certificate here. If the user blindly clicks Accept or their device isn't configured to validate the cert, we own the tunnel. The tunnel is established. Now the client feels safe to send its credentials. Depending on the protocol, the client won't send the plain password, but it will send a challenge response hash. If the user accepted our fake cert in step 3, we are now decrypting this tunnel. We can capture this hash and crack it offline to get the clear text password. Finally, if the credentials match, the radius server tells the AP success and passes along the master key. The AP then tells the client they are good to go. At this point, the standard four-way handshake happens to encrypt the actual Wi-Fi session. But for us red teamers, the game was already won back at step 3 and 4. So, our goal is to exploit how clients verify that certificate. We will set up a rogue access point to impersonate the legitimate radius server, trick the client into trusting our fake certificate, and force it to hand over its password hash. Phase 1 is all about gathering intelligence. In a WPA enterprise environment, we aren't looking for a pre-shared key. We are looking for the radius exchange. In step 1, the tester uses tools like airodump-ng to find the target ESSID channel and capture the real certificate from the radius server. This is crucial. To trick a device into connecting to us, we need to look legitimate. Tools like EAP-Hammer allow the tester to clone the attributes of the target network and generate a fake security certificate that mimics the company's real one. Now, we move to the active attack. This is often called an evil twin attack. We launch the rogue access point using host APD mana. This broadcasts a signal that looks identical to the corporate network. The trap is set, but devices are still connected to the real Wi-Fi. To force a move, the tester uses airreplay-ng to send deauthentication packets. This disconnects the client devices momentarily. When the device tries to reconnect, it often chooses the rogue AP because we've configured it to have a stronger signal strength. Once the victim's device connects to our rogue AP, the magic happens. The device attempts to authenticate. It sends its username and a hash challenge response. We don't get the password in plain text, but we capture this hash. So, we take that captured hash offline. Using hashcat, specifically mode 5500, we run it against a word list like rocku.txt. If the user has a weak password, hashcat will crack it. And then we can actually configure our device with the same parameters and connect to the target network. Let's move over to Kali Linux and prepare our environment. First, we check our wireless interfaces using iwconfig. Next, we need to ensure no background network managers interfere with our attack. We run sudo airmon-ng check kill to terminate processes like WPA_supplicant. Finally, we place our wireless card into monitor mode by running sudo airmon-ng start WLAN0. Our interface is now WLAN0mon. Now, phase 1, identifying the target. We'll use airodump-ng to scan the airwaves. Type airodump-ng-band abg WLAN0mon. As you can see, we are looking for our target BSSID, the channel, and the ESSID. There it is, our target network, Wi-Fi Corp, operating on channel 44. We need to capture the target's legitimate certificate so we can clone it. To do this, we'll lock airodump-ng to our specific target. Use the command as shown on the screen. This focuses our capture on our specified target and saves all traffic to a capture file. Right now, connected clients have already established their secure tunnels. To capture the certificate exchange, we need a client to authenticate right now. We will force this using our first deauthentication attack. We use airreplay-ng to send a brief burst of deauth packets. This kicks the client off momentarily. When they automatically reconnect, our airodump-ng capture grabs the EAP TLS authentication packets. You might see a WPA handshake notification, but our real prize is the certificate sent during that handshake. Next, we need to extract the certificate information from captured file. We will extract the target's certificate details using T-Shark. Use the command shown on the screen. We have provided T-Shark the latest captured file and asked it to extract the certificate information. Let's look at the output. Scroll through and locate the issuer details. We are specifically looking for fields like country, state, organization name, and common name. Copy this block of information and paste it into a text editor to keep it organized. Double-check to ensure no fields were missed. If you continue scrolling through the output, you will notice a second block of certificate details. In an enterprise handshake, you are usually seeing the certificate chain. One block represents the certificate authority, and the other represents the server. Often, the primary difference you will spot between the two is the email address. One is designated for the CA, and the other for the server. We will require these exact details in our next step when we forge our replica certificates. Next, we will set up our rogue AP using FreeRadius and host APD. First, we need to install FreeRadius, as it isn't always installed by default on Kali Linux. Let's start by updating our package repositories. Once that finishes, we install the package with the command sudo apt install FreeRadius. Within a few seconds, the Radius server will be installed and ready to go. Now we must modify the FreeRadius configuration files to match the target organization's details we just sniffed. Open the CA configuration file. In this file, we will update the country, state, locality, and organization name fields to perfectly clone our target. Once you save and exit, we need to do the exact same thing for the server configuration file. Remember, when filling this out, the only difference between these two files is the email address field. One is designated for the certificate authority, and the other is for the server. Next, we create an EAP user file. This file is crucial because it tells our rogue AP which authentication protocols to negotiate with our victims, ensuring we accept the widest range of connections. Create the file and include the listed protocols. Now, we are going to generate the Diffie-Hellman parameters required by FreeRadius, which is used by host APD for these WPA2 enterprise attacks. Since FreeRadius handles the EAP authentication and TLS negotiation, it requires strong Diffie-Hellman parameters for a secure key exchange during the TLS handshake. Let's do this step by step. First, move into the FreeRadius certificates directory. If a previous Diffie-Hellman file exists, we need to remove it to generate a fresh one. Type rmdh. Now, we generate the new parameters using OpenSSL. Use the command as shown. This command creates a 2048-bit Diffie-Hellman parameter file named DH. Depending on your system's performance, this process may take a few minutes because generating strong cryptographic parameters requires heavy computation. Once the DH file is successfully generated, we rebuild the certificate setup. Type make. This command ensures all of our required, newly forged certificate files are properly generated and linked. Our forged identity is ready. Now we set the trap using host APD. create a configuration file and save it in the temp folder. Notice that we set the SSID to exactly match our target, Wi-Fi Corp. We point the configuration to our newly forged certificates and specify our wireless interface. The magic bullet in this file is the setting mana_WPE equals 1. This tells our access point to act maliciously and log any credentials submitted to it. Let's launch the rogue AP. Type sudo hostapd-mana/tmp/network.conf. Our evil twin is now broadcasting. Let's verify this. Open another terminal tab and ensure your second wireless interface is in monitor mode. Now, use airodump-ng to monitor channel 44. As you can see, our fake AP is showing up right here. If you look closely at the host apd-mana output, you'll see our fake AP's MAC address ends in 0B, which matches what we see broadcasting in the air. Now, we perform our second deauthentication attack. Why do this again? Because this time, we are relentlessly kicking the client off the real network. When the device searches for a connection, our rogue AP is waiting with a stronger signal and a certificate that looks perfectly legitimate. Look back at the host apd-mana terminal. Success! The client connected, blindly trusted our fake certificate, and attempted to log in. We have successfully captured the challenge and response hash. If you look at the terminal output, host apd-mana conveniently formats the captured hash for both John the Ripper, JTR, and Hashcat. We have everything we need. You can go ahead and stop the capture and the rogue AP. We cannot use the hash directly to authenticate. We must crack it offline. First, let's crack the hash using John the Ripper. If you look at our host apd-mana output, it conveniently provided a string specifically formatted for John. Copy that string and save it to a standard text file. Next, we pass this file to John and specify the format as netntlm. Run the command, and as you can see, John quickly processes the hash and cracks the password. Now, let's repeat the exact same process using Hashcat to give you another option. Go back to the terminal output. Copy the Hashcat formatted string and save it into a new text file. Let's call it hash2.txt. We pass this new file to Hashcat. We need to instruct Hashcat to use mode 5500. And within seconds, Hashcat successfully cracks the hash, revealing our plaintext password right here on the screen. The final phase of any professional assessment is proving impact. Can we actually access the internal network with this password? We create a conf file, inputting the user's identity and the password we just cracked. Now, let's connect our own interface to the real corporate network. Use WPA supplicant with the configuration file we just created. In another tab, use the command sudo dhclient wlan4-v to grab an IP address. We are on the network. To prove it, we can open the web browser and browse to the gateway IP address. And here we can see the web page. In a CTF environment like an OSWP exam, you can also use curl to retrieve the flag. So, that's it. We have completely compromised our target network. To conclude, how do organizations defend against this? The vulnerability relies entirely on the client device trusting a fake access point. 1. Enforce certificate pinning. Devices must be strictly configured via MDM or group policy to only trust the organization's specific internal root CA, and explicitly reject any unknown certificates, even if the names match. 2. Strong passwords. NSCAPv2 is highly vulnerable to dictionary attacks. Complex, lengthy passwords mitigate the risk of the hash being cracked if it is captured. 3. Migrate to EAP-TLS. The ultimate defense is moving away from password-based authentication entirely. EAP-TLS requires the client device to also present a digital certificate, making this credential harvesting attack mathematically impossible. That concludes our deep dive into WPA enterprise attacks. Thank you for watching, and remember to always keep your testing ethical and strictly on authorized networks.